Lesson 4, we are going to discuss the nature and elements of communication. So the first one is the nature of communication. Communication is a whole process. It means that it involves a series of procedures and a step-by-step process in order to have a successful one. Next one is communication is inevitable and irreversible. When you say inevitable, we cannot not communicate. We always communicate every time. With just our fingers, with just our eyes, our mouth, we are able to communicate anytime and anywhere. And irreversible because once we say anything, we cannot turn it back or we cannot get it back because communication is irreversible. Next, another nature of communication is it involves content and relationship. So when one person communicates with another person, they share something and there is a connection or a relationship between the two people who are communicating. And then the last one is communication happens in context. So it means that communication is situational. It involves a situation wherein two persons or two or more people communicate with one another. So those are the nature of communication. The next one are the 5 characteristics of communication. The first one is schemata-driven. When you say schemata-driven, it is the use of the background knowledge. So when you say schemata-driven, when we communicate, we use our background knowledge. We use what we know, what we feel, or what we know and share it to other people. So that is schemata-driven. Next one is communication is active, powerful, and forceful. So everything we say can hurt people. It can make peace, can make someone angry, it can unite the whole world through communicating. So communication is indeed very powerful and forceful. Next one is communication is dynamic, which means that it is not permanent because it is always changing. Our way of communication in the past, just like what we have discussed in the history, has changed. And nowadays, we no longer use some ways of communicating in the past. So it has changed throughout time. And the 4th characteristic of communication is it is symbolic. Symbolic means it involves signs, symbols, pictures, or different visualizations. And the last one is that communication is a process. It follows steps and stages and procedures in order to communicate effectively. Now, let us proceed to the different elements of communication, which we will discuss in the next meeting. Now, let us discuss the 9 elements of communication. The first element or the first most important element is the speaker or the sender. The sender organizes and creates the ideas to be communicated to others. It is also the source which produces the message or the information. The second element of communication is the listener or the receiver. So the listener or the receiver interprets and understands the message which was sent by the speaker. The third one is the message. It is the information, ideas, thoughts conveyed by the speaker in words or in actions. The 4th element of communication is context. Contexts are circumstances, conditions, or factors that may affect the communication. This is also the environmental context which affects the process of communication. The fifth one is the code. The code are the symbols, marks, signs, letters, or words which are used to convey the ideas being shared in the communication. The sixth element is the channel. The channel is the method or the mode on how the messages are transmitted. Examples of channels are emails, radio, TV, newspaper, airwaves, sound waves, letters, cables, telephones, and many more. The next element is the contact. Contact means to establish or connect thoughts, feelings, and emotions between the sender and the receiver. Number 8 is the feedback, which are the reactions, responses, or information provided by the receiver back to the sender. And the last one is the noise, which is the interference or it interferes in the transmission of the message. So those are the 9 elements of communication: the sender, receiver, message, context, code, channel, contact, feedback, and noise.